Hello, scholars. It's Miss Martinez and Amos here. We're here to teach you about the next animal group. Last time we learned about reptiles, and this time we're learning about birds. Now, Amos really loves birds. He loves to watch them through the window, but he can't get them, luckily. I also hear right now a bird chirping outside my window. Have you ever heard a bird chirping or seen a bird outside of your window? Well, our learning goal for today is to be able to describe birds, to tell about them. But first, what do you already know about birds? Can you pause the video and tell me? Great. I'd love to hear that you already know some things about birds. That means the new information that you learn will be even more valuable. Our nonfiction story today is called Feathers and Flocks by Karen Jones. The parrot, owl, hummingbird, and penguin all have something in common. They are members of a group of animals known as birds. Scientists put animals into groups based on how they're similar. There are 6 main groups that we can put animals into to study and learn more about them. The groups are reptiles, birds, fish, amphibians, mammals, and invertebrates. What are birds' bodies like? Well, birds are the only type of animal that has feathers. That has what? Feathers keep them warm and help many types of birds to fly. Here's a picture of a peacock. Birds have wings, 2 feet, and a tail. Their feathery wings and tail are what allow them to fly. Not all birds fly, though. Penguins and ostriches are 2 types of birds that do not fly. Birds use their feet to hop, walk, perch on branches, and in some cases, to catch small animals. Now, perching means to sit with their feet on a branch. This tanager is perching. How do birds breathe? All birds breathe air, just like we do. Birds cannot breathe underwater, but many can swim, like this swan. Swimming swan, swimming swan. What do birds eat? Well, not all birds eat the same kind of food. Some birds, like owls and hawks, are carnivores and eat small animals. Some birds, like hummingbirds, are herbivores and eat only plant material. Some birds, like crows and bluebirds, are omnivores and eat plants, insects, or worms. Like this blackbird is eating a worm. Ugh. How do they reproduce? Birds lay eggs with hard shells. Most female birds lay their eggs in a nest. In a what? They sit on their eggs to keep them warm and protect them from predators. When they are ready, baby birds will hatch from the eggs. Where do birds live? Birds live all over the world in many different kinds of habitats. Some birds, like the toucan, live in hot rainforests. Other birds, like the emperor penguin, live in very cold and snowy places. Birds are warm-blooded, which means that their body can stay warm even if it's cold outside. Some birds migrate to warmer places. Migrate means to move from one habitat to another. What does migrate mean? Birds travel together in a group called a flock. This picture shows a flock of migrating geese. Honk honk. How do they adapt? Birds' bodies are adapted for flying. They have hollow bones, which means their bodies are very light. Because birds don't have arms, they use their sharp beaks to help them find and gather food, build nests, and defend themselves from predators. Birds that eat small animals have sharp claws to help them catch their prey. I wish I had a sharp beak to do all of those cool things with. Can you point to the beak of the parrot and the beak of the egret? Here's a cool fact. Penguins are one of the few birds that cannot fly. They also are different from most birds because they keep their egg warm by carrying it on top of their feet, like this king penguin. Do you think it would be easy to walk if you had to carry an egg on your feet? Probably not. Birds are one of the many types of animals alive today. I recognize this bird. It's one of our American symbols. Do you remember the name of this bird? The bald eagle, yes. So now, what do we know about birds? I ask you scholars to pause the video and tell me one thing you learned, one new thing you learned about birds today. Great job. Now, we're going to play a game in a second, but before we do, let's get a little wiggle in and stand up and flap your arms like wings, like a bird. Ooh, that feels good. Now, pretend to have a sharp beak and peck for bugs on the ground. Peck, 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 peck. Now, use your feet to hop like a bird. Hop. And now, like the emperor penguin, pretend that you are trying to hold an egg on top of your feet and waddle around without dropping it. Good job, scholars. We're ready to play the game. This is a Venn diagram. And remember, Venn diagrams have two circles. This side tells us about just reptiles. This side tells us facts about just birds. And the circle in the middle tells us facts that are true about reptiles and birds, about both. So you're going to help me, scholars, put these facts into my Venn diagram. I'm going to read you a fact, and you tell me, point with your finger, if it should go on the reptile side, the bird side, or in the both, the middle, because it's true about both reptiles and birds. You ready to play? Here we go. The first one says scales. Do you think scales is just about reptiles? Just birds? Or that both reptiles and birds have scales? Point to where you think I should put scales. Just reptiles. Only reptiles have scales on their skin. What about bony plates? Reptiles, birds, or both? Just reptiles have bony plates. Next one, feathers. Do only reptiles have feathers? Only birds? Or do both of them have feathers? Yep, birds are the only type of animal that have feathers. What about breathe air? Reptiles, birds, or both? Both. Reptiles and birds both breathe air. What about beaks? Remember, beaks are the sharp type of mouth. Reptiles, birds, or both? Birds! Birds have beaks. What about wings? Reptiles, birds, or both? Birds. Birds have wings, not reptiles. What about tails? Reptiles, birds, or both? Both. There are reptiles that have tails and birds that have tails. What about eat plants and animals? Which one? Reptiles, birds, or both? Both. There are reptiles that eat plants and animals, and there are birds that eat plants and animals. What about hatch from eggs? Reptiles, birds, or both? Both. We learned that reptiles lay eggs and birds lay eggs. What about live in warm habitats? Reptiles, birds, or both? Just reptiles live in warm habitats. That's because reptiles have cold blood, so they need a warm environment to keep them warm because their blood can't do it for them. What about live in cold and warm habitats? Reptiles, birds, or both? Yep, birds live in cold and warm habitats because they have warm blood. They can live in cold places. Their blood will keep them warm. And finally, adapt to survive. Adapt means to change over time in order to survive. Is that reptiles, birds, or both? Both. In fact, all animals adapt to survive. So that applies to mammals, invertebrates, and amphibians as well. Thank you so much, scholars, for helping me. I can see that birds and reptiles have a lot in common. They both lay eggs, breathe air, eat plants and animals, have tails. I hope that you can share one thing you learned about birds today with somebody that you know. Don't forget, scholars, that there's also a Google form to finish about birds back on Google Classroom. Good luck. Bye bye.